Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today with me is Domenic Colasante, who is the CEO of 2X. Domenic, can you tell us a little bit about what 2X does?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
Sure.
2X is a B2B marketing as a service firm. And by that, I mean we're in the managed services category around the B2B marketing area. And so we provide services around creative, around campaigns, around demand creation, around marketing tech management, marketing ops, analytics, and really help companies of all sizes, some very large enterprises and some other companies that are high growth and spending more money and time and attention on marketing to drive growth even further. We help them build a better marketing engine and really in this current environment, come up with a way that helps you do better with less in marketing through our operating model that has a large team in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, that allows us to service, US and international clients from an offshore geo with a very unique delivery model that I don't think has been done before in the B2B space.
Interesting. Well, we want to talk a little bit about hybrid work and remote work. So can you tell me a little bit about how this is impacting your business model, how it's impacting marketing as a service? What are you seeing in that domain?
Yeah, and in some ways it's been interesting because I founded the firm in 2018. And in 2018, our delivery people who do the work every day in marketing are based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and most of our clients are based in the US. And so in a way, we've been doing hybrid work in that sense for over 5 years, and it only became a newer thing recently. I was a CMO before, and I found most CMOs really like to keep marketing, in the same physical location, in the same office, because marketers are creative and we need whiteboards and we're always innovating and talking. And I think what's been really interesting over the last couple of years, our business model has proved this, but also, when you look at marketing, there's so many roles that are operational, that are execution, that are day-to-day individual contributor jobs, in addition to the creative, collaborative jobs. But those individual contributor jobs actually fit really, really well in hybrid models and in other types of engagement models. And our business, while we're sort of 100% hybrid in how we service our clients, in our actual physical office, we're hybrid in that we come in 2 days a week, and then for the rest of the week, folks are working remote, working from home, and are very productive of getting their work done, we found.
I think this will be pretty unusual to some CMOs to think about that separation of roles. So how do you make sure the more individual contributor operational folks collaborate well with the creative folks?
Yeah, well, it comes down to, first of all, is having a plan. And so having an organized set of what are the marketing priorities, what is the content plan, what is the campaign plan, what technology we're going to work on. And if the plan is documented, collaboratively built, and memorialized in some thing that people can go see, then everyone knows what work has to get done. And so it starts there. I think it starts with having really good planning. And then it goes into when the work is being performed. And I think this is a huge opportunity for improvement in a lot of marketing departments. You need some kind of workflow engine. You need some way that work moves. And right now in marketing, a lot of work is either in emails, or it's kind of in Teams, or it's over here in a asset repository where you're building creative assets, or it's in the marketing tech stack like Salesforce or Adobe Marketo, and so there's all these systems where work occurs. And it's important to have a workflow engine that can organize that work. And so a lot of workflow tools out in the market were built for that. And it's interesting that you think of most functions in business have some type of core workflow engine. IT has ServiceNow, and other finance and accounting have accounting systems that they all work on. But marketing hasn't had a central thing for that. It's sort of everyone's been in the ether somewhere. And so with some tools coming online like Workfront from Adobe and others, I think we're really able to get visibility to how work is occurring. With that, you can see what everybody's doing. You can measure productivity, you can measure service levels, you can measure how long it takes people to do certain tasks. And with that, you can also see what's everybody else doing. And if I'm step 3 in a process, what things are in step 2 that might be coming, what things are in step 1, and actually able to get visibility of how work is occurring. And I think the real key in marketing is to have some engine like that sits in the center that everyone can work through.
So when I think about and talk to my clients about transitioning to hybrid work and remote work and collaborating with people who are working in a remote modality to those who are working in a hybrid modality, one of the questions that comes up is communication. And of course, that is a big part of workflow. So what I try to encourage my clients to do is to push as much communication to asynchronous as possible. And I'm curious what you're finding in that domain. How are you treating communication, not simply the workflow, but how your team members communicate with each other, whether it's people within Kuala Lumpur collaborating and communicating with each other, or the people within Kuala Lumpur communicating to your people in your US office?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. And I think it's really important to think about what work has to be live conversation right now or an instant message or some kind of versus what can be a message that you pick up when you get to it. And you have a queue of things and you can tackle them and you can get into the zone of doing something and not have disruptions and distractions. I think it's important to navigate which of that work is which. Some of it actually helps when you have a global model because you have time zone, which can actually be an asset of you have, the way I think about it is, so we have people in Kuala Lumpur that work on Kuala Lumpur time zone, and people in the US that work on US time zone, and those time zones are 12 hours apart. And so sometimes someone will be up late at night or early in the morning to have a live conversation, and that's normal in a global world. But a lot of times when, let's say, the client says, hey, I want this marketing campaign built, the client can send that request, they go to sleep, overnight it gets built, it comes back over for approval, and then the client really has the entire working day to give approval. They don't have to wake up right in the morning and do it right then. They get the whole 8 or 9 or 6-hour workday, whatever they're doing, to look at it and get back to the creator as soon as they have feedback. But you're not in this, like, it almost like it spaces the workout and it gives you zones when you can be collaborative or zones when you can just be doing your work. And I think people need both of those zones. If you have all the time your Slack's going off or your Teams are going off or you're sort of getting interrupted from your day work, that makes it difficult. And sometimes the asynchronous nature can actually make it easier to have an organized work schedule.
Interesting. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper about what kind of roles you think can be more easily outsourced and what kind of roles can't be as easily outsourced. Tell me a little bit about your perspective on that question.
Yeah, I think it comes down to core competency and strategy is where I think it lands. First is, if there's a role that you have on your team that provides some capability that only you can do, and you must become the best in the world at it, well, then you should have it insourced. Things like product marketing would be in that bucket, in my view. Lots of things in marketing are not in that bucket. And I think CMOs have to really think about, and business leaders and revenue leaders and sales leaders, is this thing that I'm doing something that I need to be unique, best in the world? It's my core competency. Most things in marketing, you actually want to just deploy the best practice from the industry. You want to run email in the best practice way. You want to manage your Salesforce environment in the best way. You want to run a best practice ad. You want to use your content production engine to produce content in the way that the best content can be produced. And so if it's an operational item, you almost usually want to deploy a best practice versus if it's something that's really specific to you, like your product marketing or how you interact with your customers, customer marketing, for example, how you might be interacting with sales reps and facilitating things like field marketing. Those might be things that are really appropriate to have in-house because of the uniqueness and high value of them. And I think that's probably about 30 to 40% of the marketing work is like that. 60, 70% is run work. It's operations, it's day-to-day individual contributors. So that's one lens I would have. The other lens I would have is it something that is so critical to your strategy that you must have it, like your CMO, like what markets do you target? What is your core message? What is your value prop? How do you competitively differentiate? If it's something that really gets to your ethos of being, where the job is associated with identifying who you are and who you're going to become, those are the roles that marketers should have in-house. Again, that's a small percentage. The rest of them is executing those ideals and visions and beliefs and activating the marketing, getting your message into the right audience. And those things are really good to consume talent from anywhere in the world, where you can get high quality people that might come in a very different economic model, that might be more reliable and stable than some of the areas where there's big work shortages and disruption and turnover and other types of labor competitive dynamics that you might not have to fight with. And so thinking about like those two things is, I think, a new concept that marketing leaders need to navigate through.
And Now, when we're talking about the people who should not be outsourced, and you're talking about how marketing leaders want to keep them in-house and want them to come to the office, how much of that is actually a need for them to come to the office versus an intuition that they should be in the office based on past trends? In other words, can people who you even keep in-house, can they work all remotely, or is there some pressing reason for them to come to the office some or all of the time?
Yeah, I think one of the upsides of the last couple of years was that we got a real full test pilot of what it's like to have a remote workforce. And we have learned that it's quite productive, actually. And I think it's an interesting, case study, if you will, about workers can be very productive when they're not in the office. Some people in particular love the ability to work from home, not have the commute, the flexibility in the schedule, the work-life balance that might allow and afford. And I think the real issue is one, if it has to be in person because it's related to physical events or something, well, then obviously it needs to be in person. Very few jobs in marketing are like that. I think it's more about you need to create the work itself, I think, can get done in a hybrid, in a remote, in a non-in-person setting in a lot of cases. But what maybe can't get done is building that human connection, that human relationship, so there's trust, so that you understand each other, so that you're working on something bigger than yourself, so that if you're a newer employee, you're getting seen by management and sort of informally coached and mentored, and a lot of those things that many of us had in the early parts of our career that it catapulted us into leadership jobs. That kind of stuff is sort of on the edges. And so I think it's possible to get that by only being in the office a couple days a week. You don't need to be there 5 days a week to get that. But having a little bit of like human connection, a little bit of chance to be seen, a little bit of opportunity to build some trust and affinity with coworkers, I think that's something that's very hard to create digitally, and a little bit of that goes a really long way.
So how do you get that with your people in Kuala Lumpur? How do you get them trained up? How do you build that connection? How do you build that trust?
Yeah, so we do in-person activities. We bring people from Kuala Lumpur to the US. We bring clients from the US to Kuala Lumpur. It's really interesting to do that as well, because it doesn't have to be right away out of the gate. But for the clients, some of our clients come to Malaysia. We have about 70 clients, and probably about this year we'll probably see about 10 of them in Malaysia. And so not everybody comes every year, but when particularly folks have been working together for a bit and you're able to get some kind of like human time together, and a dinner, a meeting, a brainstorming session, the loyalty that's created in between client and 2X team member, and 2X team member and client is very interesting. It's very hard to create that condition on its own. And so getting just that might be one trip a year, but even just having some people getting to know each other and just talking about a strategic problem, talking about a visionary objective, and just kind of getting people to know that there's real people behind the screen, that has such a powerful benefit. And so my CFO at 2X is probably the least concerned CFO about travel expenses of any CFO I've met, because it's a revenue generator for us. It's a culture generator. It's a retention generator. It's a little bit of travel budget is such a valuable piece in our business. And so we try to create those moments, even if there's only a few of them.
Excellent. Now, as we finish up, what do you think is going to be the future of hybrid work and remote work and marketing as a service in the next 5 years?
Yeah, well, I think hybrid work, remote work are here to stay. But I think hybrid work means some in person, some remote. I don't think hybrid means 100% remote. And I think that's an interesting thing that gets lost in a lot of the, at least employee perspectives I talk to. And so it's good to make sure that that it is truly hybrid. I think that's critical. From our world, we've done a lot of market research around marketing outsourcing and how much marketing is insourced versus how much marketing is outsourced. And particularly in the space we operate, the B2B space, very few marketing roles and marketing team members are outsourced. Marketing tends to be 95% insourced. Versus other functions like IT or finance and accounting or marketing or procurement or HR tend to be almost 50-50 insourced, outsourced. And so I think B2B marketing is going to follow that evolution curve and realize that finding talent anywhere in the world gives us access to a larger talent pool, gives us access to reprofile our operating model and our expenses, gives us access to finally do more with less and create more impact. And so I think, and I saw that you've written about this as well. I mean, I think this wave of outsourcing of offshoring is a global item that, that in the end will result in better impact, better results, and also jobs in the U.S. that are frankly more strategic, more important, more senior. Lots of marketers go to school to be creative, innovative marketers. And then they get thrown into the work world where they have to do desk research or match spreadsheets together or do very basic menial tasks that marketing has to have done. But if those work can get shifted, and then the US marketers can focus on the things that are core competency, strategic, that only they can do, I think it's a win for everybody and the company as well. And so I think that that trend is going to continue quite significantly. And I think 2X will be a leader in the space and driving that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your expertise. That was very helpful, Dominic.
Thank you, Dr. Gleb.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show and helps us improve the show. All right, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. In the meantime, the wisest and most profitable decisions to you, my friends.